I would like to challenge you to take games seriously, very, very seriously. To take games seriously as a platform for making ourselves better and for changing the world. I want to talk to you about games in the bigger picture. Who plays them, why we play them, what they do to our minds and our hearts. Because the games that I show you may not, in fact, be the exact games that you want to play or that you want to make. So I want you to understand how games work and where they get their power from so that you can decide what games you think would be best to play or would be best to make. 3 billion hours every week playing online games. And I want to put that number in perspective for you. A few years ago, a researcher named Clay Shirky, who you may know from his book, Here Comes Everybody, he worked with folks at IBM to calculate how many hours it had taken to create Wikipedia, the online encyclopedia, how many hours it took to write all of the programming code to make the site work, how many hours of individual users editing each and every article, every line of text, how many hours of moderators, fixing bad edits and managing the community. And it turned out that the number of hours for the entire Wikipedia, every article, every language, was 100 million hours. So to put this number 3 billion hours in perspective, it's quite a lot of useful time, a lot of useful energy people are spending playing games online, that if we could just harness a little bit of that, think about the economic value that we could unlock. Think about the creative capital that we could resource. That's why I think it's very important to be interested in these games. It's also important because young people today are growing up with gamer brains, right? Their minds are really influenced by games. The average young person in a Western country with a strong gamer culture, Italy included, will have played video games for 10,000 hours by the time they reach the age of 21. And for most children, this is equivalent to the same number of hours they spend in a classroom between the ages of 9 and 18. So they're spending the same amount of time playing games as they are getting an education in the classroom. So it's really a kind of second education, a parallel education, where they are learning to think like gamers, to strategize like gamers, to solve problems like gamers. So it's important to understand what are the skills and abilities of gamers so that maybe we can put them to use in the real world. The same way we put to use what we learn in school, can we put to use what we learn? If you are used to thinking about games as a way to ignore reality, as a way to get away from our real life problems, but in fact, because of the skills and abilities that we're developing by playing 10,000 hours of games by the age of 21, it turns out we actually have new ways to solve problems, new ways to overcome obstacles and put our creativity to use. But I should let you know that we're not just talking about computer games and video games. Games have been very powerful for many thousands of years. So if you were to look back in the history of the world, you would actually find the first written history of gamer addiction written 3,000 years ago. Herodotus actually wrote in his histories about people who were so addicted to playing dice games that they would forget to eat, and that they were actually able to survive a great famine because people were so busy playing games that they didn't even notice that there was no food, that they survived 18 years that way. So games have been addicting even before they had 3D graphics or amazing special effects. Games have been addicting us for thousands of years. The game objects have usually been centered in very popular areas of town, that it seems that there were these centers where the entire community would come to play games together, going back many thousands of years, that this was a focal point for the community. And we like to say at the Institute for the Future that in order to see the future, you have to look back at least twice as far as you want to look forward, Because even though many things change, technology changes, politics, they change, the climate can change, but some things remain the same. Human needs, our desire to take care of our families and to form communities and to live meaningful lives stay the same. And it seems like games have been an important part of people trying to lead meaningful lives and form strong communities for thousands of years. So I just want you to keep that in mind. This is not some crazy new trend, right? This is part of who we are as human beings. This idea that games are unnecessary obstacles that we volunteer to tackle. And I think, again, this definition best explained in more detail with an example of a game, not a digital game. Let's think about golf. So in golf, you have a goal. Your goal is to get a little ball in a little hole. Now, in real life, if this were your goal, get the ball in the hole, how would you try to achieve your goal? You would pick up the ball, and you would walk over to the hole, and you would put the ball in the hole, and you would say, woohoo, I did it, I win. But instead, because this is a game that you're playing, you agree for some reason to stand very far away from the hole and to use a stick to hit the ball. Now, why would you do this if your goal were to get the ball in the hole? Well, that's what makes it a game. We agree to absurd restrictions on how we can achieve goals. And this is what makes games fun. Having these unnecessary obstacles in the way of our goal unleashes creativity. We have to try a new way of achieving the goal. And it provokes our curiosity. Am I capable of doing this? How would I do this? What's the best possible way that this could be done? And it gives us a social problem, right? Everybody's trying to figure out this unnecessary obstacle. So we talk to each other, we compare strategies, we try and learn from each other, we try to mirror each other's best techniques. And the great thing about an unnecessary obstacle, like golf, is that you have a chance to be very bad at something and then get very good at it. And this is a fundamental human craving, that we love the experience of getting good at something, of mastering new knowledge or a new skill. So this is the core human instinct that games really fulfill. And just as you try to remember what it is that gives games their power, think about golf. Think about this crazy, absurd way of trying to achieve a goal that everybody is bad at the first time they try. And then we spend our lives trying to get better and playing with each other to improve each other's abilities, right? Now, when you think about it that way, you realize that playing games is actually hard work, right? That work is not the opposite of play. That tackling an unnecessary obstacle means tapping into our energy, into our desire to do something that is difficult. So that's something important to keep in mind. We have this stereotype of games as, I don't know, being easy, or maybe we're kind of lazy if we like to play a lot of games. But in fact, playing games is hard work. And if you think about modern computer games and video games today, well, they're just like golf. They're unnecessary obstacles. Angry Birds is one of the most popular games in the world right now. If you haven't played it, you should check it out, because there are more than 100 million people in more than 100 countries right now playing this game. And your obstacle in this game is to avenge these lovely red birds who've had their eggs stolen by these angry pigs. And people play this when they feel like they want an obstacle. They're bored, they want to be engaged, so they sit down with their mobile phone and they spend 5 minutes trying to avenge these angry birds. And it feels good because it's provoking that curiosity and that creativity and that sense of getting better at something. You have games like Farmville and Cityville, which are played on Facebook. This game has had more people playing it simultaneously than any game in human history. They reached 130 million people were playing this game at the same time earlier last year. This is an extraordinary number of people, right? This is 1 in 12 people on the planet playing the same game. If you think about the power of a game to engage the world, it's a truly astonishing number.